and welcome back to another tutorial on the channel. Today we are doing something that I'm calling the all-in-one machine farm. It produces all of the items you see behind me, 7 different items, and produces a total of around about 15,000 items per hour. It uses around about 20,000 stress units, which once you get a steam engine isn't really too much. But if you can see the amount of just stuff behind me, it is a little bit complicated. So this video is going to be quite long, and if you know how schematics work, it might just be faster to do that. In the description, I'm going to have a schematic to this entire build, and also a schematic for this reset switch, because some of you were asking about that in the iron farm video. And then we'll also have a world download to this in case you want to check it out as well. So let's go over the actual item distribution here. We get 2,000 flint per hour, 700 quartz per hour, 50 gold per hour, 250 bricks per hour, 4,300 granite per hour, and 8,500 andesite per hour. You can notice that the diorite is kind of separate from the rest of the blocks here, and that is because you can either get 4,300 granite and 8,500 andesite, or you can get 8,500 diorite. You can see that there is a lever that disables or enables diorite generation, and all you have to do is flick it, and then you'll start getting diorite in this oak drawer. There we go, and now that is filling up, and that's really all the configurations that you need. It obviously has an on-off switch, and even though I'm using drawers here, you can use any chest system, whether it be actual just chests, or if you're using other mods, you can use anything there too. The dimensions of the farm is 12 blocks wide, 12 blocks deep, and 8 blocks tall, including this underside here, which just has a couple of belts and stuff. The general floor level, what I would recommend is this white concrete section here. So you would be walking around in whatever base you have on this white concrete, and then this would be under the floor. If you want to skip right to the tutorial, I'll have a timestamp on the screen now, and also chapters in the video to help you skip ahead. Let's get on to kind of what this machine is doing and how it works. If you haven't watched my iron farm tutorial, the Cobblestone Generation uses the same mechanism. So we have 2 mechanical bearings here that just rotate stone that's already there. More cobblestone is generated, it's immediately broken, and then it just fills onto these belts and into the entire system. So if we just follow the cobblestone here, half of it gets placed on this belt, and then over there, which we'll talk about later, and the other half goes into these crushing wheels down below. These crushing wheels then go into another set of crushing wheels, which gets turned into sand, which then gets converted into soul sand. The clay gets picked up and turned into bricks over there, and then the soul sand gets washed and turned into quartz and gold. The quartz, half of it is split and goes up there, which we'll talk about in a minute, and the other half is just stored here. So now to go on to this system. These are 2 different things. The quartz goes down into this mixer to make granite, and additionally into these crafters right here. So you'll see in a second that the 2 cobblestone and 2 quartz will form together to make some diorite. There we go, which can then be put into creating granite or andesite, or alternatively just put straight into one of these drawers. Obviously, if you're just using the create mod, you can replace these drawers with chests or have another storage system for them. In my create mod series, in a video coming up kind of soon, I'm going to create this and set up a different storage system that brings all these belts down into my main storage system. So you can check out that video if you're curious on how I'm going to do that. All right, now I think it's time to start getting building. All of the materials that you're going to need are going to be in the description down below. So let's begin. You're going to see here that I have one of the 12 by 12 gap here just for floor space. So you can technically build this in 11 by 12. But I'm going to start just by placing the ground floor. Obviously, if you're not in a super flat world like me, this will just be the floor that you're standing on and working on anyway. There we go. So now that the floor is in, we can get started on actually building this thing. In your 12 by 12 area that you have, we're going to place a block here on the, I guess, 1 block in from your front. So if you're building the machine this way, this is the front area. And then we're going to make a kind of 3 by 3 wall This can be any building block. I'm just choosing white concrete. And then we're going to put down 2 levers, one in the top middle here and one in the bottom left here. And then we're going to put a sign here that says flick lever to disable Diorite. And then just a downwards arrow. I'm making this by doing 2 slashes, a backslash and then a forward slash. And then you can click done. And then we're going to go behind here, place 2 repeaters out like this, and then 2 redstone dust. Next to the repeater, we're going to place a block with redstone dust on top. Grab our powered latch and place it facing away from the redstone dust like this. We're then going to place 2 pulse extenders with a pulse repeater in the middle like this. The pulse repeater is the only thing you're going to change. You're going to put this to 36 ticks. Then you're just going to loop redstone all the way back to be pointed into the powered latch like this. And then we're going to place 3 redstone dust coming out of this pulse extender and redstone. 1 like that, and then 2 sideways like this. And then we're going to grab our storage solution. I'm going to do chests here, but as you can see, you can do drawers, or if you're using a couple of other mods, you can do really anything that'll store items. I'm going to do 6 separate ones, but obviously you don't need to do this. I don't know why, they're just like weird looking. And then we're going to go to the back of these chests and place 2 hoppers on the top 2 chests closest to the wall that we made, a brass funnel on the 3rd top chest going inward like this. We're then going to kind of destroy some of these blocks here. You're going to destroy 3 blocks there, 1 block here, 1 block here, place a depot here with a brass funnel going into this bottom chest, a shaft here with a brass funnel going into this bottom chest, a hopper here going into this chest, and a shaft here. So it should look like this. We're then actually going to also break this block here and put a shaft like this 4 blocks away. We're going to connect it with a belt like so, and this funnel should then connect to the belt like this. We're then going to break these 2 blocks here, and we're going to place 3 shafts horizontally like this, and we're going to connect them all with a belt. Then we're going to break these 2 blocks. We're going to place a normal gearbox here into a vertical gearbox like this. Then we're going to need to dig down a block and put another vertical gearbox here and rotate it so that it is facing towards this way. Then we're going to break a couple of these blocks temporarily just so that it's easier to access. We're going to place 3 shafts into the gearbox like this. Then we're going to place 2 shafts horizontally like this, also connected. And then we're going to, again, break some temporary blocks and place 1 more shaft there. So it kind of looks like a staircase of shafts. We're then going to connect these 2 shafts with a belt, these 2 shafts with a belt. And then we're going to place 1 more shaft here and connect these 2 shafts with a belt. So you should have this 1 shaft going into 2 that are connected with a belt, that then go into this belt system and this belt system. Then we're going to break this block. So the block that is in line with these 2 belts here, we're going to place a basin there so that it is spitting out on this, I guess, middle shaft in this line. And this is going to be the thing making the bricks. So I'm just going to put a brick on this. You don't technically need it, but I would recommend it just so that nothing accidentally breaks. After that, we can place most of these blocks back here like this. Make sure, obviously, you leave open spaces here though. Then we can move on to connecting this gearbox with this belt. So you're going to break these 2 blocks and just drag some gearboxes over. They all have to be normal gearboxes. There we go. So this should be connected now. This should be connected, and you should have a vertical gearbox going up and connections as well to all of these belts. So that is most of the in the floor super annoying stuff all done and dusted. The last couple things that we'll need to do is on this redstone line, we're going to need to break this block, place a block below it, and grab our final pulse extender, place it down in this block and set it to 50 ticks, 50. Then we're going to break this block kind of diagonal to the pulse extender and put a redstone torch on it so that when the pulse extender turns on, the redstone torch will turn off. Then we're going to get our power into this thing. So we're going to need to break this block in between the pulse extender and the redstone torch. You're going to place down a rotation speed controller, make sure it is facing, I guess, this shaft should be facing towards the pulse extender here. And then we're going to need to put a large cogwheel on top. And then over here is where we're going to input the power. So obviously you're not going to be in the creative mode. So just whatever windmill, water wheels, steam engines, whatever you're running into it, do that here. Then I would probably recommend just breaking this block so you can mess with the rotation speed here. What this needs to be set to is 10 RPMs in the clockwise direction. In the Iron Farm video, a couple people had some issues, whether it be with lag on a server or something else, that the Cobblestone Generator was not generating any cobblestone. If that is happening to you, I would recommend slowing this down to 8 RPMs or maybe even 6, just so that that actually happens. And if you do that, you're going to also have to extend this pulse repeater to like 40 ticks or 42 ticks. Obviously, if you're still running into issues, just leave a comment and I'll respond pretty quickly. Moving on, we can throw the clutch down right on top of this redstone torch connected to this large cogwheel. It should be powered like so. Next, we're going to place our 2 slabs down here. And then we're going to place redstone dust on top of both of them like this. Then out of this clutch, we're going to place a gearbox, a vertical gearbox going upward like this. And then we're going to need a sequential gearshift going upward like this. And then just leave it on the basic settings of turn 90 degrees, input speed forward. After that, we're going to place a shaft on this gearbox here connected to the clutch. Then another gearbox with the encased fan facing towards, I guess, the front of the build. And then a rotation speed controller with a large cogwheel on top. And make sure you set this to 256 RPMs in the counterclockwise direction. Now, once the machine is finally built, if you're having issues with either the cobblestone not crushing everything or the fans being backwards, I would recommend reversing both of these to, for this one, switch it to clockwise, and this one switch to counterclockwise. Sometimes it just flips it for some reason, and I'm not sure why that is. But if everything seems to be backwards, just flip these two and that should fix it. Now, in front of this encased fan, we're going to break the block right in front of it and place soul sand there. After that, we're going to place a shaft here going into a gearbox, and then 3 more shafts down the line like this with 2 gearboxes after that, and the second encased fan facing in this way. We're then going to get our oak leaves, place it in front of the fan like this, and waterlog them. Next, we're going to place a depot next to the leaves, like kind of diagonally from the basin here. And then we're going to place a brass funnel facing outwards. And then we're going to set the filter to be a brick like that. Then we're going to place a vertical gearbox on top of this normal gearbox. Make sure these are not connected. We're then going to place 2 shafts like this and connect this bottom one diagonally with this one here. We're then going to connect this mechanical press to this shaft here, and it should be able to squeeze down into this basin here. There should be a brass funnel in between the basin and the mechanical press, just like this. Then back over here against this large cogwheel going 256 RPMs, we're going to place a gearbox against it, and then a vertical gearbox like this with a crushing wheel attached to it like this. We're then going to add a shaft to this gearbox, place another gearbox here, and then again, we're going to place a vertical gearbox here with a crushing wheel connected to it. We're then going to go up 2 blocks with vertical gearboxes on both of these, and we're going to connect 2 more crushing wheels like this. We're then going to put a vertical gearbox on top of the sequential gearshift like that, and add a shaft all the way along here until you get 1 block from kind of the end bit here, and you're going to put a vertical gearbox just like this. Okay, once that is in, we're going to rotate this vertical gearbox so that it is pointing kind of out away this way. It should still be vertical, so these 2 crushing wheels should be connected. Now on this gearbox that we just rotated, we're going to put 2 more gearboxes. This one has to be vertical, and this one has to be a normal gearbox to make it go sideways like this. We're then going to place another vertical gearbox here with a shaft and another vertical gearbox going like this. And then we're going to place another vertical gearbox here with 2 cogs going downward. And at this gearbox here, you should switch it to a vertical gearbox that is connected to these 2 sets of gearboxes here. Now moving back to the storage system bit, we're going to place 2 depots here with 2 brass funnels going into these hoppers like this. Then we're going to place a Smart Chute here with a basin on top of it, and make sure you set the filter of this to Diorite. We're then going to place another basin right next to the original, and it should be pouring out kind of onto this depot. We're then going to want to set both of these filters for the depots. Make sure this one is andesite and this one is granite, because then that means it'll only output those two items. We're then going to grab a couple of hoppers and place them into the andesite funnel, two just like this, and then one into the granite funnel like that. We're then going to grab two normal chutes and put them on top of both of these hoppers like that. And then we're going to come underneath, place a target block there, so the redstone now redirects into this. And then we're going to place a 2x2 volt here above the target block and kind of behind these basins like this. We're now going to place all of the auto crafters in here. So just make a 4 tall, 2 wide kind of just rectangle here. And then we're going to route everything to where it needs to go. So these two top ones are going downwards. These two, I guess in the second to top row, are both going left. So it should go down, down, left, and then into the item vault here. The same thing, but reversed, is coming from the bottom two. So the bottom two are going upward. These two are going sideways into the vault and sideways into this one block. On the back side here, there's not a ton of room, but we are going to put 8 brass funnels on here like that. And then we're going to grab our pieces of cobblestone and quartz and put them into these filters. It will be a tight squeeze, but you can do it. So just like I'm doing here. There we go. And now we can finally put in our mechanical arms. So probably what you're going to need to do is break these 2 cogwheels so you can still like move around and stuff. And if you want, you can also break these gearboxes. We can replace them in a second. Now to start with mechanical arms, all we have to do is right click on the chute to make this light blue. And since this is the quartz chute, we are going to right click on all 4 quartz funnels here. And then we're going to place this arm right there. Then we're going to do the same thing with cobblestone. So this chute is way over here. You might have to do some hardcore parkour to get there. And then we're going to right click on that chute, make it light blue. Then right click on these 4 cobblestone funnels. And we're going to place it right next to this mechanical arm. So now we're going to do another one with cobblestone. So right click on that chute, right click the 4 cobblestone that we need. And then we're going to place another mechanical arm directly on top of the quartz mechanical arm we placed before. And then finally, the last quartz mechanical arm, you're going to right click this close chute here, right click all 4 quartz funnels, and then place the final mechanical arm directly on top of this one here, just like this. Now we can put back in the 2 cogwheels that we've deleted here, and we can also replace the normal gearbox connected to this one here. So just make sure it is normal, and the 2 vertical gearboxes just like this. So that should be back to normal, and these mechanical arms should be squeezed in the back here. So now we're going to head back over to the front here, and we're going to put 2 brass funnels facing outwards into both of these basins. This is going to just drop a bunch of diorite into both of these, and then we can place 2 mixers on top of both of the basins. They should be connected like this, and then we can put a cogwheel here connecting to these 2 mechanical mixers, a vertical gearbox on top of this cog, a shaft, a normal gearbox like this, and then we just need to connect this gearbox to this one and also include the mechanical crafters. So we're going to put a cogwheel here connecting to the mechanical crafters and this gearbox, and then a shaft connecting this cog to this gearbox. We're then going to come back over to this mechanical crafter side and connect a shaft kind of pointing into the cog but not connected to it. And then we're going to connect 2 shafts here. So they are kind of floating in space at the moment, but we will connect them in a second. The next thing we're going to do is light this soul sand on fire. We're then going to, I guess, set a bajillion filters. So first things first, we're going to have a brass funnel going into the depot here, and we're going to set the filter for clay balls like this. Then I suppose it's time to actually build the item vault. So we're going to build 3 wide with the first, I guess, item vault corner right at the start diagonally to this belt that's coming out from underground. And then we're going to build it 3 high and it should connect just like this. On the back of the vault, we're going to now need to put 2 brass funnels here, and then we're going to get a list filter and set it to ingest gold nuggets and nether quartz. We're going to put that in both here. Oh, another thing I messed up here is both of these filters should have flint in them. So make sure you do that as well, and then you can just place them into there like so. Now we're going to place a shaft in the center of the item vault here, and we're going to connect this shaft to the shaft up here diagonally. We're then going to get another brass funnel and make sure it's facing out of the item vault, and then we're going to set the filter to be quartz. So if you remember, this quartz is going to go up the belt like this, and then go into the chute that we set for all of these mechanical arms to make diorite. It is now probably a good time to finish up this little corner here. I'm just going to place a block here so that no workplace accidents happen. Editing Skylar here. Before we move on, I do cover this later in the video, but I just wanted to add this here because it'll be easier to fix now. You should place a full block right here where this arrow is pointing. This will make sure that the fan doesn't push the items out of the way of the funnel. So as I said, I am going to cover this later in the episode, but it will be easier to fix right now. Next, we're going to place a depot on top of this belt with a basin kind of diagonally up from it. This basin should be pouring into this depot, and make sure it isn't going onto this depot here. We then need to set this basin to only make gold ingots, and then we're going to get a brass funnel here, and then we're going to set the filter to golden nuggets. We're then going to place a couple more hoppers facing into this bottom left chest like this. And then we're going to place a depot on top of this hopper with a brass filter coming out of the item vault. And we're going to set this filter to nether quartz. After that, we're going to get one more brass funnel facing out of the item vault onto the belt here. And then, believe it or not, an andesite funnel going into the item vault like this. Then make sure you set this brass funnel to be bricks. This next part is optional. It is basically just deleting any excess flint and stuff. If you want to keep all the flint for some reason, you obviously don't have to do this. But if you do, you're going to want to break that block, place a block below it, and fill this spot with lava. Right above that, you're going to place a brass funnel facing out of the item vault, and you're going to put in a list filter with anything you want to discard if the item vault gets too big. So for me, that's going to be flint and nether quartz. You obviously don't want to just throw out all of your nether quartz right away, which is where the threshold switch comes in. This thing basically says, if the item vault is too much, too full, power on until it gets below a certain threshold. If you right click on it, you can see that there's these two things. All you have to do is invert the signal, and then inside here you can scroll to see how filled you want the item vault to be before this starts dumping stuff out. And then while it's dumping stuff out, how long it dumps stuff out until it stops dumping stuff out. So I would set this probably at just 90% and 50% here, and make sure that the top one is red by clicking the invert signal button. Then you can click OK. The final thing we need to put on here is a mechanical press right above the gold basin, and make sure it is connected to this belt and shaft here. So we're going to place 2 chutes kind of in the middle here. This isn't strictly necessary, but I like to include it anyway. So you're just going to have a chute in this little block gap here. It should be kind of easy to place, but it might take a couple of tries to get it right. And then we're going to place another one on top of it like this. And then on top of this chute, we're going to place a 2 wide item vault like this with an andesite funnel facing out on the front side here, right above the chute, and an andesite funnel facing inward on this outside little edge here. Then we're going to head over to this left-hand side here, and we're going to throw in a boatload of vertical gearboxes heading all the way up like this. And then on this vertical gearbox kind of tower here, connected to the crushing wheels, we're going to rotate this vertical gearbox so that it is pointing towards this one. And we're going to connect those with a shaft. We're then going to place a shaft here so that it is connected to this gearbox, and a shaft here so that it's connected to this one. These should not be connected. And then moving over here, we're going to place a shaft on top of this vertical gearbox with another vertical gearbox facing kind of inwards towards these crushing wheels, with a shaft here, a shaft kind of horizontal to it, with a belt connecting the two. We're going to grab an encased fan and a vertical gearbox. We're going to place the vertical gearbox up against this shaft here with the encased fan facing downwards onto this depot here. We're then going to place a block. Any building block will do as long as it's not burnable. And then we're going to place another shaft here, a normal gearbox here with a shaft, let me see if I can get to it, connecting to this gearbox like this. We're then going to grab a belt and route this belt, don't fall, all the way over to this belt here on the very end, and make sure you just cap this belt off with a block so that cobblestone doesn't just fly away. After that's done, we're going to come back over here, place a block on top of this belt system, and then place a shaft just like this. And we're going to connect this shaft and this shaft down one diagonal block with a belt. We are then going to place another shaft connected to this one, a horizontal shaft like this, and a normal gearbox connected like this with a shaft on the end and a belt connecting these two shafts. After that, we're going to place a shaft on this gearbox here that's connected over here to the sequential gearshift, connect a vertical gearbox to the shaft we just placed, with a normal gearbox connected to this, a shaft, another gearbox, again, a normal one. Now we can finally get to the actual cobblestone generation part of this. We're going to place two mechanical bearings like this on the two gearboxes that we just placed. And then with temporary blocks, we're going to count out 8 blocks from the mechanical bearing here. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and you should line up with the redstone that is kind of jutting out like this. And we're going to place a shaft that is horizontal like this. You can now remove these temporary blocks. And then we're going to need a belt to connect this shaft way over here with this one. We're then going to grab 16 hoppers and place them up against the belts like this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and the same thing on the other side. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we're going to grab our stairs. This corner one needs to be placed as a bottom stair, kind of like this, so that when you place the next stair, it turns into a corner stair. And then we're going to go along the way like this. And then the same thing needs to be done on the last stair. So you might have to place some temporary blocks and then place the stair like that. The same thing needs to be done on this other side here. So I'm just going to place a temporary block, place a stair facing that way so it turns into a corner stair. Then we're going to go all the way down the line. And we're going to need to do the same thing on this side. So a temporary block, corner stair, and make sure that these 4 are all corner stairs. We're then going to grab the rest of our slabs and place slabs along here. You don't technically need one here, but I'm going to keep it. So all along here on top of the belt all the way to the end. And then we also need a building block on the end here to prevent water or lava from flowing out. I'm going to use glass because I think it looks nice, but you can use really anything at all that doesn't burn. And then we're going to build it 2 tall high here. Awesome. After that, we can fill in all these stairs with water. I would do 1 just to make sure there's no like leakages or anything. But then after that, you can fill in the rest of them. These all need to be water source blocks for the farm to work. So they should all be flowing forwards and none of them diagonal or anything weird like that. So again, I would just do a test one, make sure nothing's leaking, and then you can fill in the rest of them. There we go, and these should all be flowing into the middle like this. After that, we can use whatever block you really want. I'm using glass again, just because I think it looks nice. On top of these water stairs, on both sides here. Additionally, we're going to put some on the mechanical bearings here as well, and in the middle like so. Again, you don't need to put one here, but I am going to put one there just because I think it looks better. And then we can put in the lava. This is going to be source blocks on every block here. So 16 buckets of lava total. There we go. And these should all make some stone or cobblestone. It doesn't super matter. Once you have that, you're going to go and grab your super glue. And this part is kind of hard to see, kind of just because there's lava in the way. But if you right click on this block here, you can see a little bit that this is the block that is being super glued at the moment. And then just walk down the line and then right click the far block here. And you should see, if you hold out the glue, that This glue line is on the blocks, the stone blocks that you can see kind of in there, and it should go all the way along the line like this. Then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So super glue the far block, run over here, super glue it together, and we should see underneath here that we now have both sets of stone super glued all the way to the mechanical bearing. And I think that should be almost everything. The last thing we need to do is go over troubleshooting and what happens if something goes wrong. So I say we just start it up and see if anything goes wrong, first and foremost. Odds are something's backwards or you get an achievement. But once you turn that on, this should be looping pretty continuously. It should be rotating these lava generators. This cobble should be going along the belts like this into this andesite funnel and into the item vault. The item vault should then be splitting it into the chute here. If you hover over it, you can see up at the top, it says 8 cobblestone in the chute, which is great. That's what we're looking for. And then also going into the andesite funnel here. We also want to check that down here, stuff is getting crushed, blown into, let's see, blown into, there we go, soul sand. Oh, and this is a great point. We need a block here. So all we have to do is, I'm going to turn it off just for safety purposes. Ooh, example A. And I guess I'm just going to break this belt, stand here, pick up all the items, and place a block right there next to these brass funnels so that this fan can only blow into this block. I'm just going to replace this here, and we can start it back up. See if there are any more issues going on. It is also good to check. We haven't put in any lava here. This means that any extra clay is just going to get bypassed. So let's put the lava in. I am going to put an Iron Trapdoor here. Obviously, you can use a normal block, but I think an Iron Trapdoor here is good just to make sure that you're not getting anything reversed or anything. And then we can place a lava source block here. So there we go. You should now see underneath there the little red lava particles going, and this should cook into a brick. There we go, we just saw it. We can now see in this basin that there is a brick, and once we get 4 of those, we currently have 2, it should compress and put it onto this belt system and put it into the vault. So while that has been going, I just want to make sure that this is actually crafting quartz and cobblestone. It looks like it is, but currently the quartz is a bit slow. If you want more of these building blocks of granite, diorite, andesite, all you have to do is reverse this funnel so that it doesn't fill up this chest first. It will take a couple of minutes to get fully up to speed, but after that, it should be relatively quick and you should get the rates that I described in the intro. So the big thing to notice is that both automatic crafters are in fact working. We should be able to see that in a second here. There we go, perfect. And then we also need to confirm that the diorite is going into both of these basins. It obviously is, but we currently have diorite collection turned on. So I'm just going to disable that, and we should see some andesite flowing in here in a minute. The next thing we need to look at in a minute once it gets ready is the gold output. Oh, there we go. Okay, so that we know that works. That's perfect. Oh, this is actually good to see. Another reason this kind of takes a minute to spin up is just because this hopper where the chute is going in needs to be filled up kind of before these crafters can get up to full speed. But as you can see, once they do, they start going. So when that happens, you can probably reverse this back onto this depot. But if you don't need it, then just let these things do their thing. And it is probably a little bit faster in creating diorite, andesite, or granite. So that is the tutorial all completed. In total, this thing uses about 19,000 stress units, which, I mean, once you get a steam engine, isn't too bad. And for the amount of, like, actually difficult items to get, like andesite or granite or diorite, this is super worth it in my opinion, and I am, spoilers, definitely going to use it in my own Create world. So that is going to be it for me today. Let me know down in the comment section if you have any issues, things you want to add, or things you did add. And especially let me know if there's anything that you want to have in Create mod and want me to maybe make a tutorial on it. Anyway, that is it from me. Thank you all so much for watching. If you liked the video, be sure to like and consider subscribing. I'll see you all next time. Peace.